Hello everyone, welcome to the 0th or introduction episode to this playlist. If you don't know about this game, well, it'll make sense. Zero, tarot cards, major arcana, or introduction, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, technically, this is me sort of in the future of this playlist. By this point, I have recorded about 17 episodes worth of footage for this playlist, but I'm going to be putting this at the beginning because I figured it's best to put something like this at the beginning. So, as I will mention in the first part of this playlist, I like Hand of Fate. I like Hand of Fate 2. I didn't get to play Hand of Fate 2 for a long time because of technical limitations, or I had it on my laptop once. I played a little bit of it on my laptop. I don't know why I didn't keep playing it. Whatever. But I decided to share a little bit more of my history with this game. To start with, I am the admin of the Hand of Fate 2 wiki. Or, well, maybe I'm not the admin anymore by now. I don't know. I haven't been on it in a while. And if somebody has replaced me as admin, well, that's fine by me. I'm totally okay with that. But the Hand of Fate 2 wiki. It's nice, isn't it? Well, let me tell you a story about that wiki. Back in 2018, I think it was, this game, Hand of Fate 2, came out in 2017. At least that's what YouTube's information says when I'm putting up the videos. Around 2018, I think it was, I looked at the Hand of Fate 2 wiki, and, well, it was not what you're looking at now. The original Hand of Fate game has a beautiful wiki. It's really, really well done. Like, wow. I loved it when I looked through it, when I was trying to figure out the game. But the Hand of Fate 2 wiki, when I looked at it 2018, it was I can't even call it skeletal exactly, but it was, if I call it skeletal, that implies that it's a complete skeleton. No, 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 no. The Hand of Fate 2 wiki back in 2018 was more like a collection of a few bones rather than a complete skeleton. There was a homepage, there were a few articles, there were some small collections of card images, but that was it. I don't mean to rag on the people that created the wiki in the first place. I wouldn't even know where to begin with creating a wiki. And clearly, whoever created it, that's wonderful and thank you. But it was very clear that the actual work of making the wiki was not there. The wiki was barely there. It was useless. It was functionally useless. It was. And that made me very annoyed. Like, Hand of Fate was a great game, and it had this beautiful fan wiki that cataloged all the cards that was, the catalog, the enemies, the cards, everything. And Hand of Fate 2 was an even better game, and yet it had nothing. It had next to nothing as far as its wiki. Most of the challenge articles weren't there. Most of the articles weren't there. And some of the articles, I'll get to that. But eventually I decided to try and work on the wiki myself. I started adding information where I could. But that became clear after a little while that there was only so much I could do just as an editor. And the real work for the wiki needed to be done by an admin. And at the time, I didn't know anything about being an admin for a wiki. I didn't know anything about editing a wiki. I didn't know the code to write, some of the things to make them look right. I had to learn that as I went. And I certainly didn't have time to fully admin a wiki or fill this thing out the way it should have been. I was busy with other things. I did not have the time. And yet, to me, it needed to be done. So I took the time. I actually got permission to be the admin for the wiki because, after a while, with the way Wikia works, if the admin hasn't shown up for a long time, someone else can request to be the admin for the wiki. And I did. And I got to work on the site. And if you want to know why the Hand of Fate 2 wiki is useful and functional and why it is the way it is now, right now, as you look at it, if you have looked at it, if you have used it for anything, you're welcome. Because you have me, in part, to thank for that. I am not kidding. The challenge articles. Hand of Fate 2 has its campaign mode, which is the real meat of the game, the main part of the game, the 22 challenges. Before I took over as admin, there were 2 challenge articles. There was a main article for the challenges, I think, and there were 2 challenge articles. The Fool and the Magician, at least I think the Magician was there before I got started. I'm not sure. I know the Fool definitely was. But those articles were there. They didn't really have much of anything to go on. They had a little bit of structure, which I took as a starting point for my own structure. Because here's the problem with a wiki. If you're really working on a wiki and not just adding bits into the article, but building the articles, it's not just having the information. It's how to structure and format that information, how to present that information. And I am certainly not saying that, well, I didn't want to do that. Building a wiki is hard. I know that. Oh, yes, I know that. I did that work. You think I don't know that? Just even trying to figure out where to get started. Sometimes it felt like I was picking away at a mountain with a pickaxe. Trying to take down the whole mountain with just a pickaxe and a shovel, or maybe just a pair of sticks. But it's a question of also how to structure the information, because a wiki, a fan wiki, Wikipedia is an online encyclopedia, except a wiki on Wikia, fandom, whatever, is dedicated to a particular thing, a particular work of media, whatever. But it's still like Wikipedia. It is an encyclopedia. A fan wiki is an informational tool. People go to it to learn and to seek answers, or just to learn about something they may not know anything about. So it's not just putting the information in, it's about figuring out how to structure and order that information so that it is legible and readable and understandable. And yes, I will admit that Hand of Fate 2 is a much more complicated game than Hand of Fate. It is more story heavy. It has a lot of companion characters. It has a lot of text variation, a lot of different if-then possibilities for card text. There are more gambit types. Trying to catalog Hand of Fate 2 would be a much more difficult task than Hand of Fate 1. It is. Definitely it is. But that doesn't mean that the effort shouldn't be done, or that the game doesn't deserve the respect and attention that the original game got. So I started building the articles. I worked on the homepage, the navigation. I realized there were only so many spaces you could fill, so I had to work out how to structure that. I think I started with the challenge pages. Yeah. So all those challenge articles for everything past the Magician, those articles didn't exist before me. I actually created all of those articles, and I completely redid the Fool and the Magician as well, because it was very chaotic at first, and I was the only person working on this thing for a while, which is frustrating, by the way, realizing that you're the only person that actually wants to do this. But yeah, it was very chaotic for a while. I kept improving and changing the structure and format of the articles, the headings, what headings do you use? How do you format the text? How do you actually format the text to include the gambits? Like, oh, now you enter this gambit. If, then, whatever, so on and so on. Is this bolded? Is this italicized? Do you capitalize this? Do you capitalize this? Putting in links occasionally, so articles were linked together, that kind of thing. It was very messy and very hard to figure out. But eventually I got it. Again, structure is one of the big questions, but it is also getting the information. And I'm going to show you some screenshots right now. Also, forgive the fact that this video is mostly a still image. I was trying to cut down on the file size. Look here. This is from a Google document I made in 2018. This document is, I believe, 24 pages long. Yeah, 24 pages. I mentioned in, I think, the first video for this playlist, well, the one after this one, that I watched other people's Let's Plays of this game. And I did for fun. But when I took it upon myself to build this Hand of Fate 2 wiki, I rewatched their videos for information. What you're seeing right here is the code key I eventually created to help, mark down what kind of information I got. Information on equipment, information on encounters, types of gambits, so on and so on and so on. The second picture right here is one of the videos I went through. Some of the Let's Plays, I went through every single video because I didn't want to go through the video, oh, here's some information. I'll pause the screen and then put that into the wiki. No, that probably would have taken forever. So what I did was I watched the videos and I would pause them and I would make notes about what kind of information came up. Oh, here's some information on this piece of equipment. Oh, this encounter came up. This encounter came up. So on and so on. And as you can see from this first picture, I put timestamps, so where in the video does this information appear? So when I was actually entering the information, I could go back to this video, I could look it up, I could go to that point in time, and so on and so on and so on. And you'll see there that I put the term challenge-specific cards, maybe companion-specific cards. I forget if it's in this screenshot or this next one, but the term challenge-specific cards does not actually appear in the game itself. You'll see that term used on the Hand of Fate 2 wiki. I came up with that. That's mine. I don't know if the term dealer's mark is in the game itself, whether they mention that as an official term, but I can't remember if I came up with it. I can't actually remember if I came up with it or if it was in the game, so maybe I did, maybe I didn't, but I mentioned the dealer's mark in the playlist as I'm talking about the game, or companion marks or companion-specific cards, but I came up with the term challenge-specific, companion-specific. As you can see, I made a list of all the challenge-specific cards that came up in these videos. This document used to be a lot longer. I used to just list the cards that I saw one line at a time, but the document got so long, I realized that wasn't workable, so then I compacted it into this paragraph format. I underlined all the card names so that it would be easier to identify the names of cards versus any particular notes I might be typing in, like, oh, I saw this, so on and so on. So that's how the document got to be this dense. And I did this for every video, at least in one person's playlist. And then I think I wasn't as thorough with some of the other playlists, but I did all of this work, like several Let's Plays, just digging through their videos, finding whatever I could, marking it down for later, and then manually typing the information in myself. I had to transcribe it word for word, punctuation for punctuation. The categories on the pages, the little categories, at the bottom, like a Wikipedia page, and the categories within categories, I came up with those. I made them myself. The text explaining each particular category, I made those. Oh, what else did I do? A lot. A lot. So I basically built the actual structure for the wiki and started adding actual muscle and organs onto the thing. I didn't do everything. Eventually, Bear and Smokey came along. They're the other admin for the site. And they ended up putting in way more contributions than I ever did by now. A lot more. So they deserve as much credit, if not more credit than me, for making the Hand of Fate 2 wiki the useful thing that it is. But yeah, the fan wiki was really in a bad place. Let me reiterate. The manual of style. There is a manual of style for the Hand of Fate 2 wiki. I wrote the entire thing. I noticed that the Narutopedia, the Naruto fan wiki, had one, and I thought that was a good idea to make it clear to people how to format these articles, how to structure them, because again, Hand of Fate 2 is kind of complex, and in order for that information to be legible and understandable, in order for articles to be able to be followed, you do need a certain amount of structure and design, maybe more so than other kinds of fan wikis and other articles and other fan wikis. You need a certain structure, formatting. You write it this way, this way, this way. When a gambit comes up, you put it in bold, maybe put a little information, put it in parentheses, that kind of thing. I wrote the entire manual of style myself. I put a line in there about, please do not just put shorthand notes in articles, because people are not mind readers and they may not be able to read your shorthand notes, depending. And again, that a wiki is an informational tool. People use it to learn and find out. And also that even if you don't have complete information, put down what you can, maybe make a note in parentheses that, it's incomplete, make a note somewhere, but at least put something down. And the reason I made that little reminder about shorthand notes, this is part of one of the things that annoyed me. There was an article. Before I got started, the Hand of Fate 2 wiki, again, did not have very many articles, but there was one where the contents of the article was 3 words. Actually, maybe 2. It was something equal win. I haven't gotten to that card yet in the actual Let's Play I'm doing, so I won't name it and I won't spoil it, but I guess I'll talk more about that when I get to it. But it was basically this word equal win. That was it. That was the entire contents of an article on a fan wiki. 3 words. 2 if you don't count the equal sign as a word, because it was a literal equal sign. Now, I get why they put that there, whoever put that there. They wanted to just make a note as to how to beat the card and get its token. I get that. I do. But that was the entire contents of the article, and nothing else was added, ever, by them or by anyone. So this article, does that seem right to you? To leave a fan wiki article with just that? It doesn't, does it? Does it seem right to, this article was basically used as a dumping ground for a shorthand solution. That's it. And that is not right. As I mentioned, the original Hand of Fate wiki, the fan wiki for the original Hand of Fate game, it doesn't just provide the solutions for getting tokens or how to beat cards, so on and so on. It celebrates the game itself. It actually puts down the card text. It catalogs the card text and the enemies. It celebrates the game itself and all of its elements and unique features. And why shouldn't Hand of Fate 2 deserve the same level of respect? And that article annoyed me. And to be fair, the article where I saw that shorthand note, it is probably one of, if not the most difficult card. I mean, I haven't seen all of the cards in the game. I avoided some DLCs, as I will mention later. But as far as I know, it's the card that article belonged to is probably one of the most difficult cards to write an article for. There are so many text variations and ways that it can go, if then, that figuring out how to structure that information, structure it in a very readable way, is really hard to wrap your brain around. I will admit that. But the article should not have been left like that. That's horrible. That's embarrassing. I'm sorry if that bothers. I don't know who wrote that, and I'm sorry if that upsets you, but it shouldn't have been left like that. And I made sure to add something more to it. And that's why I put that notation in the Manual of Style. And a fan wiki should not be a dumping ground for shorthand notations, even for a game. You should not put shorthand in there. People are not mind readers, and they may not be able to read the shorthand that seems perfectly readable to you. So between me and Baron Smokey and anyone else, I don't know I forget if there are any other regular editors for the Hand of Fate 2 wiki. I'm sorry if I don't remember your name, but me and Baron Smokey, most of the effort in designing the Hand of Fate 2 wiki, and it's because of me and them that the Hand of Fate 2 wiki is actually usable and not a embarrassing nothing. So if you have used the wiki at all to learn about the game, to play the game, to help you with the game, you're welcome. And actually, there are some holes still in the articles. I noticed a few while I was looking stuff up for the Hierophant Challenge. You'll get there. So if you see any holes in the articles for any of the cards and you have the information to fill in those holes, please go ahead and fill in those holes. Contribute. If you love the game and if you can actually fill in some of this information, fill it in, please. And that's all I have to say. So now, on with the game.